All right, so I'm going to kick us off. So as you can see from the agenda today, we're just going to keep it brief, but we want to highlight a few really important topics. Consent, bystander intervention. We're going to talk about just definitions broadly, reporting information, and resources for you. So as we have had these conversations with students in the past, there's a couple things that students always want and need information about. So this is by no means a full training on these areas, but we want to at least get the conversation started, get you some good, concise information. And if you have questions, please let us know. But one of the big things that we want to talk about today is consent. And a really helpful way to remember all the pieces of consent is fries. It always helps me remember when I can think of a word to think of all the different aspects, just like we do with CPR, if you've ever been trained in that. You want to remember consent as fries. So there's a few different things or components of it. So the first would be freely given. That means it's given without any convincing, guilting, coercion, forcing, things like that. So again, thinking about fries, if you were getting consent for sharing fries with somebody, it would be, I'm not going to have to convince you to have fries with me. Okay. Reversible. So that would mean at any point somebody could change their mind. So they could say, yep, I want to share fries. And then, you know what? I'm not hungry for fries anymore. I don't actually want to have fries. So it can be reversible at any point. Informed. So that person has to know that they're having fries with you. So, yep, I understand that I'm having fries with you right now. Enthusiastic is a really important piece of consent. So that person is excited to share fries with you. I'm excited to have fries with you. Yes, I want to have fries with you. Specific. So specific to that exact act. So again, going back to fries, it could be something like, I know we're going to be sharing these salty fries with ketchup. So very specific is how consent should be shared. The other thing that we get questions on is, what do I do if I see something that's not right? What if I see some type of misconduct or something that just doesn't feel right? How can I intervene? Oh, sorry, I do this every time. We also have a consent at Concordia definition. So if you're looking through the definitions and anything in like the student handbook, this is what you're going to see in terms of consent at Concordia. So it's informed, knowing, voluntary. It's active and not passive. It's not implied by silence. It's not implied by past consent. So if you have consent one time, doesn't mean consent for another. It's not inferred from a prior or existing relationship. Consent for one sexual activity cannot be taken as consent for another. Consent with one person does not imply consent with another. It cannot be procured by force, threats, or coercion. It cannot be given by an incapacitated partner. It cannot be given by somebody under the age of 16 in Minnesota. That's the age of consent in Minnesota. And it can be withdrawn at any time. So, as I said, the other thing that people always want to know about is, how do I intervene if I see something that's not right? And again, a good way to remember that is ABCs and 4Ds. That's kind of the basic overview of bystander intervention. So ABC is the things that you do before you step in. So A is assessing for safety. That's super important if we're ever intervening in a time where we're seeing something that's not right. Is it safe to help? You don't want to put yourself at risk or put that person at risk. So always assess for safety. B would be in a group. It's always safer to intervene in a group than it is to intervene alone. So if it's possible for you to be in a group to get some people to help you intervene, that's going to be the more safe option. And C, you always want to care for the victim. That should be your priority, is directing your attention to the person who is being victimized in that moment or is the recipient of the inappropriate behavior. So you want to talk to them and you want to ask them if they're okay. The 4Ds are how you can intervene safely. So some different ways that you can intervene in different situations. So every situation is different, and it's really going to depend on your comfort level with the people, where you are, who's around, things like that. So these are just some options of how you can intervene. So the first one is direct action. That's just calling out the behavior and asking them to stop. When you're doing this type of action, you always want to be polite and calm to prevent escalating the situation. You don't want to make it worse. You want to resolve the situation, not escalate it. So calling it out, but being polite and calm. Another option is to distract. So interrupting that situation to divert attention and creating a situation to get the victim away safely. So an example of that is, let's say you're at a house party and you see something going on that's not right, like accidentally spilling your drink on somebody so that you can get them away from that situation would be a distraction. Or, you know, again, just creating a situation that takes people's attention away so that the person that's the recipient of the inappropriate behavior can be moved away from the person who's perpetrating. Delegating. So if you don't feel comfortable yourself, finding somebody to step in. So again, going back to like the house party situation, you don't know the people. You could always find the person who owns the house to try and intervene, delegating that situation. Or it's one of your friends' friends, asking that person to intervene. So delegating. And the fourth is delaying. So if it's not safe to intervene in the moment, don't let it go, intervene later. So caring for that victim again. So wait for that situation to pass and then asking the person if they're okay. What resources do they need? How can you help support them? So you can always delay if you can't safely intervene in that moment, and connect that person later and support that person later. Any questions about that information? Again, I know it's quick, but I'll also send some of this information out so you have it as reference, and you can always ask questions later if you don't feel comfortable now. The last thing I'm just going to mention before I hand it over to Jen is I believe Heather is going to be putting a informational sheet in the chat right now with all of the definitions. Again, that's not something we have time to go over today, but it is your responsibility just to know these definitions for sexual misconduct and things like that. So that's going to go in the chat. And if you have any questions, of course, please ask us. And I'll turn it over to Jen.
All right. Thanks, Katie. Okay, I'm Jen, reporting. So I'm really new in this role. I really want to approach this work and reporting, especially with fairness and respect and a commitment to everyone's well-being. I also want to recognize that being new to this environment and this role, I realize that some people may not have had a great experience in this arena before. And if that is the case for you, I would love for you to come and talk to me. I know it won't change your experience, but it will help me learn and grow in this arena. So the ways to report sexual misconduct. I don't know who's running the slides, but can you go to the next slide, please? I want this group to know that I'm committed to supporting students who may have experienced something traumatic, but also the students that may have made choices that they necessarily wouldn't have made, or regret, or have made mistakes. So there are multiple ways to report misconduct. You can talk to a Concordia employee or any student leader, RA, or an OL that you're comfortable with. You can also connect directly with me. You can also talk to Peggy Torrance. She's in HR, and then any of your athletic administrators, your coaches, any trusted individuals. You can also report on cord.edu. There's a Title IX section that gives you information on how to report as well. We do have required reporters at Concordia. Confidentiality plays a big role in this process, and the safe and trusted person that you decide to talk to may be required by law to report to the Title IX office. This does not mean that law enforcement becomes involved immediately. This does mean that I will provide outreach to the parties involved and figure out the best approach and best way to support them. It's really the student's choice whether they want to respond to that outreach, but the first step is always just discussing resources and making sure people know their options. So the required reporters at Concordia are orientation leaders, residence life staff, FYT mentors, and then all employees, with the exception of confidential resources, which we'll go over in a minute. So faculty, advisors, SCCL staff, public safety, and coaches, those are all required reporters. So they would report what they hear directly to me. We do have confidential resources on campus. They're highly trained in confidentiality and how to respond and support any and all parties involved in an incident. So we have mental health counselors at the Center for Holistic Health, Sarah and Maddie and Heather, and then we have some graduate interns, which I was just a little bit ago, so you may have seen me on campus before. We also have pastors, Kim and Dave and John, and then health services coordinator, Katie. Those are all confidential resources. You can go to them and they are not required to report conduct or incidents with Title IX. So confidentiality can also evoke some really strong feelings because people feel like nothing's being done because they don't hear about, we can't share any of the details, obviously, after an incident has been reported. So, but we really want to make sure everybody understands their rights, and we want to promote accountability and support people so they become responsible members of our community and our campus. So this is kind of how it plays out. I would receive, it says Title IX office. It's me, one person. It's not a whole office, but I would receive the report, and then I would reach out to the reporting party. They do not have to respond. They do not have to move forward. They do not have to do anything. They can respond back, and then their options could include the grievance process, any further investigation, supports, resources, and we would discuss any accommodations needed. They can stop and start the process at any time. And we really want them to feel empowered to decide what they want to do. And again, with confidentiality, all information is kept as discreet as possible. Resources. We have resources on and off campus. We have public safety, the Center for Holistic Health, and then Rape and Abuse Crisis Center. And any of those people listed before can help get you connected to any of these services. And then, let's see the next one. Oh, before we go on to timely care, this is a really difficult and kind of uncomfortable topic to talk about. So I try to think of a few questions that have come up in the past. And one would be, how do I support a friend that has gone through something traumatic? Or how do I support a friend where I see problematic behavior? Encourage them to reach out to the Center for Holistic Health, I think is a great option for anybody who sees somebody struggling or making poor choices. We want people to be there to listen and encourage them to reach out, but not pressuring to report. Reporting is a very stressful event, and it is kind of driven by that person. So any pressuring in that arena is not helpful. So just try to listen and be supportive, and know and tell, reinforce that when they go in to talk to, whether it's a confidential resource or me or a athletic director or a coach or anything, we want them to feel supported and heard. So that is our number one priority. So just try to make them feel like it's not as scary as it sounds. And then the other question that I think is a big topic of conversation is what if someone is wrongly accused? And this percentage of false reports is somewhere between 2 and 10%. So it's really rare that reports are false. However, it does happen. And the approach here at Concordia, and my approach, is to provide an opportunity for both parties to share their perspectives. No matter what side of the discussion you're on, your voice matters and you'll be heard and treated with dignity throughout this entire process. I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
You'll have a chance to ask questions through the survey that we share here in a little bit as well. It's kind of a strange setting to be asking questions in front of everybody, and we recognize that. You're welcome to, but if you're not comfortable, we will allow that through the survey. And as we did that last year in a different training, we worked hard to answer all of those questions that came through. So if you have them, you can save them for that.
Just real quickly, when we're talking about resources, I just want to, since I'm in front of everyone, I want to talk about something exciting coming in the fall. We are going to be rolling out Timely Care available to all of our students. So again, more information will be coming as we approach fall. But it's going to be a great resource that's available to all of our students. So there's going to be medical services, you can see prescriptions, there's counseling services available on demand. There's a lot of self-care supports that are available, a peer community health coaching, and support for just the general campus community, including faculty and staff. So it's a very exciting thing. And since you're here today, I just wanted to mention it to you, but more information will be coming. And just to wrap up, I think, like I said, one of the most important things for today was to introduce these topics and also just be kind of face to face with you virtually, just so that you guys have an opportunity to meet your resources. So meeting Jennifer, meeting me and Heather from the Center for Holistic Health. So again, this is the start of a conversation. If you do have any questions at all, hypothetical, or you want to talk about a specific situation, please come and chat with us. We want to hear from you, and also going along with that, you will have opportunity now. There's going to be an evaluation that's going to be dropped in the chat for you soon. So please be honest. Tell us what you want in future trainings. This is something we do every year. Or if you have follow-up questions, just let us know.
Thanks to Heather, to Katie, to Jen for being here and helping facilitate this. Thanks everybody for jumping on. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. I'll stay on for a little bit in case anybody needs me, but thanks again. Reach out if you need anything.